You'll be kind, Usul? Bijaz asked. I'm a person, you know. Persons come in many shapes and sizes. This be but one of them. I'm weak of muscle, but strong of mouth, cheap to feed, but costly to fill. Empty me as you will, there's still more in me than men put there. Dune fans recently heard some good news about Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's DUNE Messiah, with reports confirming that the Tleilaxu face dancer Scytale would be positioned as a main villain of the film. Given Villeneuve's Bene Gesserit-focused adaptation, fans were worried he'd be cut. But now that we know that Tleilaxu will be a prominent part of this adaptation, many have rightly wondered whether or not the prescient Tleilaxu dwarf, Bijaz, will also be included. He doesn't appear a whole lot in the story. He's very odd. I don't know if that would be too strange. He speaks in riddles and songs. I liked how they did it in the miniseries. He was very sinister and creepy, and I thought they pulled that off very well. Considering how Denis Villeneuve has streamlined other minor characters before, even villain characters like Count Fenring, he may do something similar and just bundle those things with other characters. Like Reverend Mother Mohiam was kind of operating as the Emperor's representative for Dune Part 1. And Lady Fenring had her plans, but not really in connection with the Count. Bijaz is so much fun though. I just have that inclination that he's probably going to streamline it. The most important ones to include, obviously, are Scytale and Edric. But it would be interesting to see Bijaz. It is very strange. It's interesting, too, because he's a prescient dwarf. His abilities cancel out Paul's vision. Because of his prescience, it blinds him, which is also how Edric operates as well. He's another prescient figure whose presence in the plan shields the entire conspiracy from Paul Atreides' vision. Now, while Paul can see some of the effects surrounding their plan, he can't see it entirely because of that prescience kind of cancels out prescience. So it'd be very interesting to include him. It'd be a very small role, but I think very strange. And this universe is strange and just adds to its deliciousness. Why we love it so much. So Bijaz is another product of the Bene Tleilax. He came out of the same axolotl tank as the Duncan Idaho Gola hate. He is actually in a very crucial part of the story, and it's related to the climax at the very end. He has a very crucial scene with Paul Atreides. Bijaz's presence is pretty critical to getting Paul to not know the stone burner is about to go off. That part, right before the stone burner incident, they're together. And Paul can get the glimpses of what's gonna happen. He sees some things, but again, his vision is being clouded in some respects because of Bijaz's presence. And I think they leave together, and in a very crucial moment, there's certain words that Paul knows is part of the future that he can't avoid. So he has some semblance of an idea of how the future will unfold. There's just a lot of unknowns, very significant unknowns, and he's very much off-put by it. Another crucial part for Bijaz is right before that climactic event. This is going to be the biggest event, most action-packed event, biggest set piece of the whole film will be the stone burner. And yes, he's a very significant part of that. And then Bijaz trolls Paul by rhyming everything he says. And again, I think the Children of Dune miniseries portrayed that very well. I think it might be too much for Scytale to do. He does a lot already. Part of why he's so crucial is because of his prescience canceling out Paul's to lure him into this position. This particular part maybe could be done by Scytale, but he also has a significant role in activating a certain program within the Gola hate. There's a certain moment where he activates some sort of kill switch, hidden programming within him. And a certain word or phrase, "she is gone," is supposed to activate that hidden programming where he would then try to assassinate Paul Atreides. So Bijaz is the trigger for that. And also their bigger plan, though, which is their own singular agenda that's mixed into all of this. Mostly they want Paul's power to be stripped away from him. All of his Trome holdings, all of his power as emperor to be done away with for his dynasty to end. And if that requires him to be killed, okay, but it's not necessarily the entire endgame. If he gives up his Trome holdings, that would be enough. That would be sufficient. There is also that other plan at work for the Bene Tleilax that involves the Gola hate, because they want what the Bene Gesserit have achieved, which is unlocking genetic memory. So until now, they've only been able to create clones, Golas, from the dead tissue of a person, but that person doesn't have their prior memories. So they're a new person, basically. But what they want, they know it's in there somewhere. They know it's possible because the Bene Gesserit have achieved it, that in the flesh, it is possible to unlock genetic memory. That's their agenda, is to have that genetic memory unlocked. And that would be a huge thing for their society. And of course, that could also make their products even more valuable if they were able to do that. And they've done this before. They've made their own Kwisatz Haderach. They've been right on the heels of the Bene Gesserit. They want to do these things too, to kind of advance themselves in their own genetic manipulation ways. So they want to achieve the same things that the Bene Gesserit are after. It's very interesting to see the different factions use their different abilities. They're all so different from each other and have advanced themselves in such vastly different ways. And all of these different factions with their own agendas at work too. All of these ones are having to come together to take down the Kwisatz Haderach. And it's one of the most interesting parts of this particular story. Paul has exerted ultimate control with control of the spice, and he just holds everyone on a leash because of it. But seeing all of these factions come together with the different offerings and their different abilities to take down such an individual, it's a very cool story, and I can see why it's people's favorite. Paul is startled when Bijaz answers the door because that wasn't part of his vision. He's very off-put about it. Paul is shook by Bijaz, same way Fenring shook him. And that must be very interesting when you, after years and years, it's been 12 years since the events of Dune, 12 years since your prescience has been fully unlocked. You are the most powerful being with that. Past, present, and future has been bridged. You see multiple timelines. You are just in the throes of this prescient vision. And just to be so used to that, to knowing everything of what will happen and the possibilities of what might happen. But then to have these blind spots must be very off-putting. Even at the end of Dune, when the Emperor orders Count Fenring to dispatch Paul, he doesn't know if he will succeed because he's blinded because Count Fenring was part of the Bene Gesserit's plan. So he's part of the breeding program. He was a failed Kwisatz Haderach. So he wasn't sure. And what's nice about it, I guess a pro of it, is that it's actually a short novel. There's not this huge span of time that's taking place, and it's much easier to adapt, I think, for a single movie. And that's how the miniseries did it. The Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, they did 3 parts, and the first part was adapting DUNE Messiah, that first episode. And the rest, 2 episodes were devoted for Children of Dune. It is very philosophical. There's more intrigue and more scheming. It's less action-packed, but there's really good character work in it and character development. I think in film format, DUNE Messiah is especially suited for adaptation. I think it's easier to handle because it's not a huge span of time at all. It's just this one thing, this outworking of the conspiracy. It's a very short book in comparison, at least, to the other stories. So I think it's probably the easiest to adapt in that respect. But it does have those challenges of inserting certain elements that add some more action and that make it more entertaining and cinematic. Dune Part 1, I think, is a great example of that because I think it would strike a similar pace, that the biggest action takes place right at the end. It doesn't feel slow to me, and it does have a lot of world building in it, and I think it's very well done. They can go with that approach, and I think do it quite well. And Dune Part 1's my favorite. So who would we cast then for Bijaz, if indeed he will be included? I think the most obvious, a lot of people might think of Peter Dinklage just because. I also thought about Warwick Davis, but if we're also including taller actors, that definitely opens up a whole world of possibilities. But definitely someone who can be silly and sinister in equal measure. And Danny DeVito. Oh, that would be hilarious. I didn't even think we would get Scytale, so I'm very pleased about that. And so I will be pleased, I think, even if they did decide to fuse those 2 characters together. I do think it would be difficult, though. For the same reason that Edric is so important, too, Bijaz's prescience is a significant factor in the outworking of events. But as far as the triggering of hate and Duncan Idaho's programming, Scytale could do that, I think, just as easily. He would be aware of it. And that would just be icing on the cake if we also get Bijaz. But I'm curious to know if you think the story of DUNE Messiah can be effectively communicated without the inclusion of Bijaz. Would you like to see Villeneuve attempt to bring this character to life on the big screen? Or do you think it's too bizarre? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more sci-fi and fantasy news, theories, and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, you can leave a super thanks or join as a YouTube member for early access to new videos and other perks. You can also check out my Patreon page for exclusive content. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.